Lower back pain is one of the most common aches, pains, or injuries that people suffer from. And one of the most common reasons why people have lower back pain is because they have tension inside the muscles of their hips that prevent their body from holding their pelvis in the right place. So when you have tight glutes and hips right here, that pulls the pelvis this direction and puts your lower back in a bad position. When you have tight adductors right here, these muscles inside the groin, that pulls the knees inward, which pulls the pelvis into a bad position, which makes the lower back in a bad position. And when we have tight hip flexors, these deep muscles right here on the front sides of the hips, they can pull the pelvis the opposite direction, again, putting too much pressure on the lower back. And what happens is, in all of these situations, our spine flexes more than it needs to, which can pinch down on these nerves here, or especially in the SI joint on the side of the hip right here, causing lower back pain. The good news is, I'm gonna show you 3 stretches today. They're gonna help loosen up all the areas of your hips, and I'll bet you that if you do all 3 of these, that lower back pain will go away or be greatly diminished. So give these a shot, okay? The first stretch is called the seated straddle stretch. Now, the reason why I like this stretch so much is because you can do this stretch while working on your computer, while looking at your phone, while watching TV. So the next time you find yourself doing one of those 3 things, make sure you drop down and do the seated straddle stretch. So the muscles that this stretches are the inner thighs. We're gonna stretch the groin muscles, okay? And those muscles, again, tend to pull the knees inward like this, which puts the lower back and the hips into a bad position. So to do this stretch, you can either do this on the floor, or you can do this on the edge of a chair if the floor is too challenging for you to get down to, and come into a straddle position. For some of you, that might mean here before you start to feel tension inside the inner thighs. For others, it can be even wider. Find the position that feels great for you. Then I'm gonna show you how to relax into this position and a few different moves that you can do to loosen up the groin and loosen up the hips even more. So once you find a position where you feel a little bit of stretch on your inner thigh, what we can do is bring our hands behind us, lift our chest, and start to scoot our hips forward until we increase that stretch a little bit. Now, once you find a position where this is like maybe 85% of the intensity that you can handle, we don't want to just sit here and go, oh, and freak out the whole time and tense, because what that does is it creates more tension in the hips. Instead, we want to learn how to relax in this position. So here's how to do it. If your posture is bent forward like this, that means you don't have enough flexibility in your hamstrings and your groin in order to hold this in an upright position. If that's the circumstance, then you're gonna wanna be putting your hands behind you for support as you do the straddle stretch, okay? And in this position, what you're gonna do is this. You're gonna work your belly button forward while working your chest upward. So it looks like this. I feel rounded back right here. I bring my hands behind me. I'm able to upright my posture. Now in this position, I'm gonna take a big breath into my belly. And as I exhale, I'm gonna imagine lifting my sternum up and dropping my belly button and pelvis forward like this. Pelvis forward, lift the chest up. Then what we do is we walk our hands forward just a little bit. We find a new position. Take a big belly breath in. As we exhale, pelvis forward, chest up. We walk the hands a little more forward. And the goal is to work ourselves up to a position where if we look from a side angle, we have a nice straight spine. If we're able to hit this position, then the next part of this is to take your hands from behind you and bring your hands in front of you instead. And this time, we're gonna take a big belly breath in. And as we exhale, we're just gonna work on bringing the belly button down towards the ground while maintaining length through the top of our head. So it looks like this. And we exhale, we walk the hands forward, we think about length through the top of the head, and we work that belly button towards the ground. Every time we take that big belly breath in, tall through the top of the head, and we exhale, and we work the belly button towards the ground. Now, it's important in this position, especially for people with low back pain, not to go into a rounded back position like this, okay? So we're always thinking neutral spine, either neutral spine with the hands behind you for support, or neutral spine with your hands in front of you for support. Holding this position for anywhere between a minute to even 5 or 10 minutes while you're watching TV, while you're looking at your phone, while you're reading a book, while you're working on your computer, can do wonders for stretching these muscles right here and the hamstrings, which open up the hips and ultimately help your pelvis go to a better position, making your lower back feel so much better. So make sure you practice this stretch frequently because it's gonna make that lower back pain go away. Okay, this second stretch is going to address your hip external rotators, the ability to rotate the hip outwards like this. Now this stretch is amazing because when you stretch these muscles in the glutes and the hip external rotators, it's gonna loosen up the tight pelvis that you have and the tension in the lower back. It's gonna make the lower back feel so much better. So what you're gonna do is do this. Walk your feet up until they're in a bent position. Then from there, you're gonna take one ankle and you're gonna cross it over the knee like this and allow your knee to come to the outside like this. For some of you, this could already give you a stretch on the outside of the hip. If this is the case, that's totally fine. You'll just want to breathe and relax here, and And then slowly over time, bend this knee that's on the, or this foot and knee that's on the ground, and bring your ankle closer to your body to increase the stretch. Now, if you're able to get to a position like this and you feel a little bit of a stretch, but maybe not too much, then there's a couple different ways that you can make this more challenging to really target those muscles. For some of us, we're gonna take our hand, we're gonna dive it in this little spot here, in between our leg and through the back of the hamstring. So it looks like this. Go through the hole, grab the back of the hamstring, crunch up a little bit, and then let your body relax back down on the ground and pull your knee towards your chest. As you do this movement, you're gonna feel a lot more of a stretch coming through the outside of the hip and this glute on the ankle that's crossed over the knee. And you're gonna hold that position, you're gonna breathe in and relax and try to bring your knee closer to your chest on every single exhalation. Now, if for some reason this doesn't feel like the right move for you, or you're unable to grab the back of your hamstring, another way to make this a deeper stretch, and I'll show you on the other side, is once your ankle's crossed over your knee, to allow this foot to work its way down towards the ground. So just letting the body tip to the outside like this. And what you'll feel is on the outside of this hip over here, in the glute and the hip rotators, you're gonna feel a similar stretch. Now in this position, the one thing that's different is we don't wanna push the knee out. Instead, we wanna pull the knee down and towards us, which is gonna deepen the stretch. And again, focusing on our breathing pattern, big inhalation, big exhalation, and just letting the knee come closer down to the ground. Again, deepening that stretch all the way through the outside of this hip. Slowly come out of either one of these stretches or any of these variations, because we're stretching these muscles around your pelvis. You already have lower back pain, so make sure to move slow as you go in and out of these positions. Again, you can hold this for anywhere between 60 to 90 seconds each side. You can do this at least once per day to loosen up the muscles of your hips and help your pelvis settle back into place and help your lower back pain go away. Make sure to couple this with that adductor stretch and the stretch I'm going to show you next to make sure that you have all the right stretches to loosen up your hips and make that lower back pain go away. Okay, this last stretch is probably the most important stretch for people with lower back pain, and it's the one stretch that almost nobody does for lower back pain. This stretch is going to target the hip flexor muscles, which run from the thigh into the abdomen, and essentially what these muscles do is they pull the pelvis into this position, an anterior pelvic tilt. For a lot of people, this position is the cause of their lower back pain because there's so much weight and pressure in front of the spine and an excessive arch, meaning it pinches down on those discs and those nerves, causing that lower back pain in the first place. So what do we want to do? We want to lengthen these muscles, which tilts our pelvis back into the proper position and allows our spine to be more stacked on top of itself, relieving us from that extra pinching in the discs and the nerves and making our lower back pain feel better. This one stretch has helped millions of people relieve themselves of lower back pain. Trust us, some of the videos we've made about this stretch have gone crazy viral because nobody's doing it for lower back pain, and it works wonders, okay? Here's my favorite way to do it at home, especially if you're a beginner. You can have a couch or a chair just like this. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna kneel on that couch or chair, just like this in this position. You're gonna bring your foot in front of you, and so you're in like kind of a lunge position. Now here's the kick to this, okay? A lot of people when they do this, they'll open their hip up to the outside, and as they come forward, they'll start to arch their lower back like this. All that's doing is putting more pressure on your lower back and not changing the way your pelvis is held or stretching your hip flexors properly. So instead what we want to do is this. We want to bring that foot forward, then we want to imagine our pelvis is facing straight forward. You can put your hands on your hips and you can feel it. Make sure it's not twisting this way or this way, and make sure it's facing straight forward. Then we want to make sure to tuck our tailbone. So in this position, it's really easy just to think about going down deeper by arching our back, but you can see if I pull my shirt tight, I got a huge arch in my lower back as I come down. Instead of that, what we want to do is this. We want to squeeze the glutes and tuck our pelvis. So imagine taking your tailbone and pointing it down towards the ground like this. Now as you go forward, maintain that tucked pelvis. You won't have to go nearly as far, and you'll feel a much deeper stretch on the hip flexor on that back side. Hold this position, and you're gonna take a big breath in. And as you exhale, just let your hips come forward. I always like to imagine the weight pulling me forward towards my front heel like this. But again, don't let that tailbone start sticking out and arching that lower back. You can hold this one for, again, 60 to 90 seconds. What's amazing about this stretch especially is as I come out of this stretch, before I switch sides, I always like to kind of feel what it feels like for each side of the body. What you'll feel is, holy cow, this side of my pelvis comes back and down into position. My glutes, my hips, my lower back feel great. This side still feels pretty tight. So make sure you do the other side as well and practice this stretch every day to loosen up those hips to make that lower back feel better. So just to recap, if you want to get rid of that tension in your hips to help relieve lower back pain, here's what you're going to do. 60 to 90 seconds of the seated straddle stretch, followed by 60 to 90 seconds of the lying figure 4 stretch, followed by 60 to 90 seconds on the kneeling chair hip flexor stretch. If you do these stretches every day, It's gonna make your hips feel amazing, and it's gonna loosen up that lower back. And while stretching like this is incredible, if you want us to build you a follow-along stretching routine with all the right stretches for your body, well, that's what we've built at WeShape. And you can try it out for free. All you gotta do is click the link below. Otherwise, if you're really suffering from lower back pain, try out this 12-minute foundational workout for people with lower back pain. Give it a shot, because we'll teach you some moves for your core and your lower body that are gonna strengthen your muscles and help you get rid of that lower back pain even faster.